Hello and welcome back to MacGuffinPodcast.com. This is another Top 5. I'm John.
I'm Brandi.
And a while ago, you and Alan talked about movie sequels you would like to see that
Yep.
haven't happened yet. Stuff like Gremlins 3 or a continuation of the Before Sunrise series. And that got us thinking about films we don't want to see, whether it's remakes, continuations, just Hollywood, don't do this. We know that by mentioning them, we're putting the idea in someone's head, but they are bad ideas.
Yeah, all mine are ones that I've heard rumors of and that I think are just terrible ideas. Just, you know, a lot of stuff you hear about it never happens, and I'm really hoping that all these fall into that category.
Yeah. All right, well, to start things off, my number 5 is a movie that a lot of people are excited about, but I just don't see how it could end up well, and that is Ghostbusters 3. I absolutely love the Ghostbusters series. You know, even Ghostbusters 2 I think is a good movie. The animated series is great. I don't want to see decrepit old Ghostbusters, like, training a new crew. Like, I don't care. I don't want to see Bill Murray dying in the opening scene and being a ghost. Like, it just seems like they would just be doing it to make money, just to be continuing the series. We could have a series of new Ghostbusters. It's like, hey, they tried that. It was a cartoon called Extreme Ghostbusters that no one watched because it's dumb. You know? If I want to see Ghostbusters, I'll watch the originals. I'll watch the cartoon. Make a new cartoon. Like when TMNT was a big hit a few years ago, they had this idea that they'd do a CGI Ghostbusters with the original voices. I'd say go that route. Keep them the ages they were in the sequels. I really don't want to see 60-whatever-year-old Bill Murray getting killed off in the opening scene because he has contract disputes.
You're so ageist. I don't know. I mean, I think they should either just do it or shut up. But I think it could be fun if I don't know. I'm not as devoted to
I mean, you know what
Ghostbusters
else
as
could have
you
been
are,
fun?
though.
Indiana Jones 4.
Yeah. Okay. Fair point. All right. My number 5 is super random, but I just came across this on IMDb the other day, and I was like, "What? How is that? How is that a thing?" And apparently, someone wants to make Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, this movie is so old, and it's great, but it is weird as hell. And it's like, could you really strike gold twice, making like a half human, half cartoon film noir spoof? Like,
Yeah, you're right. That's true. But honestly, this is a movie that's been in development hell since the 80s. I actually recently read that one of J.J. Abrams' first jobs was writing Roger Rabbit 2 in the 80s.
really? See, this
Yeah.
is like the first I've heard of it, and I'm just like, how is it still on like Frank Marshall's IMDb page? I think is what I was looking
I
at.
think it might have something to do with Robert Zemeckis' motion capture he's into nowadays, which I don't like at all, because then that means you're going to work in CGI animated characters. And the whole thing is, like, since the first movie, Disney had this dispute where they're never going to appear in movies with Warner Brothers again, so you still won't get that same magic that Roger Rabbit was, where you had characters from every animation studio. I think it's kind of a one-of-a-kind thing.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
It's one of a kind. It's great. Let it go.
But then again, we had a Tron sequel 30 years later, so at this point, it's kind of like...
And I couldn't give a crap about it, but here's the difference.
Roger
Tron
Rabbit,
sucks.
yeah, Roger Rabbit is a lot better than Tron. I'll give you
Original
that.
Tron is a POS. Sorry, guys.
I'm not a Tron fan by any means, but I wouldn't even say that. So the Tron bombs can be directed in this general area.
Let me have it.
Moving forward, my number 4 is something I heard about a few years ago. My favorite film of all time is The Breakfast Club, and there were rumors of a remake that wouldn't even be a remake. It was like set in an airport, and people's like flights got canceled, and they're from different walks of life, and they sit down and talk. It's like, okay, that sounds like an interesting Breakfast Club ripoff, but don't fucking call it The Breakfast Club, like, because it's not.
You didn't need to do a Breakfast Club remake because every show about teenagers since then has had their Breakfast Club episode.
Yeah.
Like, everybody ends up in tension and they bond.
And there was
It's, it's a good premise for
exactly.
a character conversation piece, you know?
But there are ways to do it differently, where it doesn't just have to be, we're calling this a Breakfast Club remake, we're cashing in on the name, even doing the exact same thing again. Like, Nick Hornby wrote a book a few years ago called A Long Way Down, where 4 people go to commit suicide on New Year's Eve on a roof. It's just, 4 random people, it's just a popular suicide hotspot. They meet and they start talking and they learn about each other. It's obviously inspired by the Breakfast Club, but it's something totally different. Do things like that. Be inspired by the classics. Don't just remake them or randomly rehash them. Back in the day, John Hughes had an idea that we'd catch up with the characters every 10 years at reunions, but that never happened, and maybe it was for the best. I just think, leave the Breakfast Club alone.
Okay. All right. My number 4, it's not a movie, but it relates to a movie franchise. And
This is a MacGuffin film podcast, Brandi.
I keep hearing about things many things, but specifically this is the worst idea in this particular gargantuan franchise, and that is this Star Wars live-action TV show that George Lucas keeps talking about that would take place like between episodes 3 and 4. I'm just like, why? Just stop it. Just stop. Like,
yeah,
cartoons are one thing. Like, I get it. Like, it's for the kids or whatever. Do the Clone Wars, but like, if you want to have something that's going to be like a hit in primetime with adults, just stop. Like.
Yeah,
so
my interest has waned when it comes. I mean, the prequels were bad enough. The Clone Wars movie was god awful. I mean, if you thought the prequels were bad and skipped that one, you're lucky that you skipped it. I don't know anyone who watches a Clone Wars TV show.
It's popular with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, one movie that was gonna maybe be on my list was like Star Wars Episode 7. It's just, George, stop. I mean,
yeah.
Star Wars just needs to be this thing that's been kind of run into the ground, and we can at least look back on those
you can
three.
Make the video games, you can do the online stuff.
The books have been continuing the story in a very interesting way.
But when you try and do more live action stuff, and it sucks, that tarnishes it way more than the other tie-ins, I think.
I definitely agree with you on that. My number 3 is something that it's a movie I really want to see, but the way they're going about it seems awful, and that is Clerks 3. Kevin Smith has been talking about making a Clerks 3 for a few years, that he might do a Before Sunrise kind of thing. Every 10 years he'll catch up with the characters. I think that's an amazing idea, especially with how good Clerks 2 was with that premise. But now the Weinstein Company, like, they're not making a lot of money, so they're looking at all of their franchises, trying to reboot them or do sequels, and they're now talking about a Clerks 3 without Kevin Smith. And he owns the rights to the Jay and Silent Bob characters, but that's it. So they would make a Clerks without those characters, with a new Dante and Randall. I mean, even if they got the old guys, it wouldn't be the same. That would kind of smooth it over a little bit, but I doubt they'd go in that direction. It'd probably be 20-something comedians as the new Clerks.
Like, just calling it Clerks?
Exactly. It's either, there's been rumors it's either a remake or it would be a Clerks 3, but I mean, I'm not interested at all. I love that universe. I love those characters, but I do not want to see it without Kevin Smith. There's no point without his voice behind him.
Yep. Sounds like a bad idea. All right. My number 3 is also sort of a TV movie crossover thing, and I don't actually think this is ever going to happen, but I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of the actors being asked questions about it in interviews. Stop talking about a Sopranos movie. Honestly. I loved the end of The Sopranos. I know some people hated it. I thought it was great. But even if you thought it was stupid, like, what would a movie give you, really? Like, I just...
Yeah, it'd just be kind of playing to the fans. Like, honestly, I'm not a Sex and the City fan, never watched the show, didn't see the movies, but those movies just seem like all they're doing is like, remember when everything was wrapped up and you were kind of happy at the end? Well, now we're just going to keep having to go on and on, and eventually it'll get bad.
People were not happy because things weren't wrapped up at the end of The Sopranos. I thought that worked, and I think we can just all imagine the ending that we wanted, because it was either going to be like Tony lives or Tony dies. Like, and half the people would have been pissed anyway, no matter what you had done. So I just thought it was one of the most clever endings I've ever seen, and that it should just, David J. should just leave it at that, which I think he wants to.
Yeah.
But I mean, just like every time Edie Falco gives an interview, they're like, so about that Sopranos movie, you know?
Yeah, I just don't think it's a good idea. Historically, spin-offs from TV series don't really work, especially ones that are as grounded in like a plot and the characters as Sopranos. I just can't see it working like that. My number 2 is a movie that I was like shocked and horrified when I heard about it. I don't think I've ever been more disgusted at a movie announcement than when I heard that, you know, okay, The Dark Knight Rises is coming out next year. Before it even started filming, Warner Brothers announced that they are going to reboot Batman after The Dark Knight Rises. Like, I wanted to throw up when I read that. I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is seriously... Warner Brothers are the biggest bunch of assholes I've ever heard of.
Superhero reboots are just going to continue until the end of time.
Why the fuck do you have to reboot it? Make a part 4. Like, obviously, you could get a new cast. It's happened in the past. You can continue a series. James Bond is maybe it's the only example, but it's a perfect example. You can, you know, sign up some new people for parts 4 through 6 or whatever. There was even talk of a Batman TV show. Go in that route, following in the same world. But I mean, Batman Begins will be not even 10 years old. Well, it'll be about 10 years old at the point they're talking about. Like, I mean, come on. Unless Dark Knight Rises is this giant bomb, which I doubt it will be. I mean, as storytelling wise, we're going to have one of the most perfect trilogies ever. And you're going to then just be like, hey, remember all that stuff that they did so good? We're going to reboot it and do it shittily and, you know, treat you like assholes. It's the same thing with the Spider-Man series. Like,
and who wants to watch another origin movie? You know, I don't. So.
Yeah, and I honestly, I'm not that interested in Batman in a different world. I understand we're not going to always have Christopher Nolan doing it, but you can still keep it sort of in that reality and not have a drastic jump like a reboot in the Joel Schumacher world or something weird like that.
All right. Well, my number 2 is about a franchise that they've only just started making, and I would just like to beg and plead that this rumor that there are going to be 4 Hunger Games movies instead of 3 is not true. There's no reason to split up that last book or whatever other weird, crazy split up that they would want to do to make 4 movies. I totally supported doing that for Harry Potter for the last book because there's just so much stuff to get in there.
But now Twilight's doing
there
it.
There is no narrative reason to do it with the Hunger Games books. Each one is completely, like, it's contained adventure. Like, they all are obviously an overarching series, but like I just can't figure out for the life of me where any break would go that would have a natural climax for a film, and it just I was disgusted when I heard that this might be a thing.
And it's kind of weird because the first one hasn't even come out yet. What if it's a golden compass and nobody cares?
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, the first one will make money no matter what because the books are just so popular. But
well, I mean, the Golden Compass books are popular.
But was there, like, waiting in line to get the last book when it came out kind of thing?
See, I don't know, because honestly, I've never heard of the Hunger Games before you started tweeting about it. So,
all right.
Different audiences. All right, so my number 1, the movie that I do not want to see. If this movie is made, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm going to murder people, but if people involved in the production go missing, maybe I'm number 1 suspect. Maybe I'm just giving you that tip right now, police. But that is Back to the Future Part 4. I mean, the creators have said that there's no way Back to the Future will be made without Michael J. Fox. They have no interest. Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, the producers, writers, directors, have no interest in continuing it. It's wrapped up. But I mean, money talks in Hollywood. It is one of the most beloved franchises of all time. Because they stopped it where they did, it's one of the only solid across the board franchises you have going. There's not, I mean, Part 3 is a little bit drop in quality, but
I really like.
But compared to other series, it's not a big drop at all. I don't think in comparison. And it's just, I don't want to see somebody else's Marty McFly. I don't want to see his kid with Doc's kid. I don't want to see a remake. Like, stay the hell away from Back to the Future. I remember when 16 again? Was that the Zac Efron movie? 17 again. When that came out, he was like, I love Back to the Future. I'd love to be in the Back to the Future remake. I read that and I was like, fuck you, Zac Efron. Don't say it because you'll make somebody want to do it, So just don't. Back to the Future is perfect as it is.
Okay.
Stop it.
Okay. Okay. I can feel your blood pressure rising.
What do you have to say for number 1? Is it going to make me mad?
My number 1, no, I mean, you won't give a shit, but if Alan was here, he would agree with me that this Thin Man remake with Johnny Depp needs to not be a thing. And I like Johnny Depp, but there is no contemporary equivalent for William Powell, the original actor in the series. He and Myrna Loy were iconic in these roles, and they don't translate to contemporary humor. It just doesn't. It is all of the style of the late 30s through the 40s. Like, it is just there. I can't picture this being anything but seeming like it was making fun of that.
What about throwback movies, though? Couldn't it take place in the 30s, be something like Hudsucker Proxy, like a throwback to fast-talking kind of fun sort of movies? I've never seen The Thin Man. I know it's a big popular series. It went on for like 6 or 7 movies, right?
Yeah. There's 6 of them, I believe. It was very, very popular, and William Powell had... It irks me to think of anyone trying to be him now, because he's just so of that time.
Okay, I can understand that. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Don't do it.
All right, so that wraps up our top 5, films we don't want to see. Hollywood, take note. We're not going to be happy.
You will not receive my $12.
Exactly. If you make these movies, all you will get is an illegal download that makes you no money because morbid curiosity. And then I want to give it a 1 on IMDb. That's the only reason. So let us know what you think at MacGuffinPodcast.com. Are you, for some reason, excited about these awful projects? Or do you hate them as much as we do? Let us know.
Yes.